Okay, Atomic Podcast featuring our boy Jonah Hexx. Round of applause, everybody, for Jonah Hexx. Yay!
Again.
So let's just jump right into it. I think the number one story on everybody's minds right now is the growing love interest between QT Marshall and Allie the Bunny. Okay, on AEW. I mean, they have got some hot fire going on over there with the limited crowd that is happening at these AEW events, and I cannot wait to see how the storyline progresses. What do you guys think?
I feel like Marshall only deserves love now that he's gotten hair plugs. You know what I mean? He needs to get that hair game right. Now the chicks are gonna dig him. You know what I'm saying?
Does this mean that the Bunny and the Butcher and the Blade have split up? Because they were basically on opposites. Like you had the good guy side and the bad guy side. We've had at AEW, like for the fans that they've had, and I feel like they were on different sides. Does this mean is this just like she's just going over there to try to lure him into some sort of trap? I guess that's probably more the case.
Well, if we're going based on their location, really Vicky Guerrero could be the next manager for the Butcher and the Blade.
I fucking pray. I hope so. God, I hope so.
It's hard to say what the big news last night was because there was to me there was three real big news things, and that would be obviously Tyson and Jericho's thing, and then
nobody cares.
There was
about
also
that. Let's be real.
There was also the Matt
nobody
Riddle
gives
Tim.
two shits about
There was
that.
also the Matt Riddle Tim Thatcher cage match. You know, the no ropes cage match style deal. That was amazing.
I did enjoy
it.
That.
Was good.
And then, of course, the other thing being FTR making their debut on AEW, which I've been calling
that was
for
badass
since they left. I've been calling for them to make some sort of commitment to the FTR, because if you're going to be a tag team organization and you're going to talk about, you know what I mean, like you can't, like they're there and available. And finally, last night, my Instagram hits with a picture of them and Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard backstage, you know, shaking hands, like finally.
Yeah, it seems.
So are
like,
they best friends again now, or what? What's going on with that?
Yeah, I did see that photo. It seems like they've been building towards the revival. Like, how long do you think the revival has been signed, and they just have been waiting, until like a post pay-per-view Dynamite to bring them out?
Oh, since the day after they were dropped from the other shit.
I truly hope so. But I mean, there was nothing on the books. Not that there could be because of the no compete clause, but there was nothing on the books because that was why a lot of other wrestlers were like, man, yeah, I understand. Like Leo Rush basically quit wrestling. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Leo Rush basically quit wrestling because he was after the big firings went down, he a few days later was like, yeah, I'm probably done with this. I'm going to probably do acting and some other stuff. I'm going to
for God's sake.
But he's in the new, it's called Legend of the White Dragon or something, but it's got the guy that played Tommy from Power Rangers, and it's like a movie version of something to do with that. Anyway,
oh, really?
He's in that and stuff, and he's done some other stuff. But my point is like him and others were like, wow, it's no wonder we're not getting signed by anybody, because even the Revival hasn't gotten FTR now haven't gotten signed by AEW, which is like, duh.
Yeah, but we all knew that that's where the Revival was going to land. Like,
I mean, that's why they asked for their release for basically 2.5-3 years from WWE, is because they wanted to. They didn't want their whole deal is they want to be the best tag team in the world, and they didn't want to be in an organization that didn't have the best tag team. And everybody, to a person, thinks the best tag team in the world is the Young Bucks.
Right. Well, I mean, aside from the Young Bucks, the Revival is now the best tag team in AEW, having not had a single match. I guarantee you.
I'll say this: whoever is the security guard at that side gate at Daly's place that keeps letting pickup trucks through there to drive right down there to the ring, because this is 2 times. You know what I mean? This is 2 times. That guy needs to wake up. That guy needs to realize, I don't care who you are. If you're Cody Rhodes, if you're the Revival, it doesn't matter. If you show up, like, it just stop pickups. Like, at this point, every single one has been a pickup. It's been some sort of customized pickup. So I feel like something's got to be done about that for safety, if nothing else.
It's embarrassing. Somebody is going to get hurt if they just keep allowing motorized vehicles on ringside. But
I
this
mean,
kind
'cause
of
up until now, there's never been any motorized vehicles that have ever invaded the center area of a wrestling match. I mean, really,
Certainly
it's
not
unprecedented.
pickups.
No,
Certainly not pickups. Certainly, no one has ever barreled to the ring in a pickup to look like a quote unquote badass
Yes.
or anything like that ever. That
Really
is a completely
unprecedented.
original Tony Khan original idea. 100% original.
It begins.
I will say.
Speaking of original, so when Tyson pushed Jericho, okay, sorry.
I will say that you know how difficult it is to look like a badass when you're driving a Zamboni. Stone Cold fucking did that shit. Okay, I'm not gonna sit here. Okay, but the big question, especially after the revival coming back, is what is to become of Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows? Because you would assume they're going to be the next big signee wherever they sign. Do you think they're still going to probably come to AEW, or what? What do you think's going on with that?
I want them in AEW, but I think it's just as high a chance they might land back in Ring of Honor or something weird like that.
If AEW doesn't sign them, it's another just about complete boner. I mean, we've got. I guess I harp on her all the time, but I mean, we've got Penelope. What's her last name now? It's not Sabian because they're not married. But either Penelope Ford. We've got Penelope Ford on guaranteed. We've got Penelope Ford on guaranteed money, and the revivals out here. That's been my every episode since the firings. That's what I've been saying, and so now it shifts to them and other people that are available. EC3, hello.
Oh, for God's sake, please! I really want EC3 and his little stable he's creating to pop over. But dude, I like.
Vince McMahon is tearing his stable apart. Vince McMahon is tearing his stable apart because he's fired EC3 at the same moment he's put the strap on Strowman. Then he's essentially worked us on firing Drake Maverick.
Yeah,
because now Drake Maverick's in a championship match on a pay-per-view. So maybe he's fired, but man, what a severance deal! You know what I'm saying? That's like a Shawn Michaels Bret the Hitman Hart severance deal. It's like, yeah, we're going to put you in the main event in a title match in your last match in our deal. Like, yeah, you're going to lose probably, but who cares? You're going to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
he would walk out of there with some real push.
If they're working us,
which they are,
it's almost as if it's a tactical strike to destroy EC3's anything he was trying to build, because his new character is basically like a different version of what Moxley did. Just, I'm gonna say I didn't have enough creative freedom and that this is what I really want and stuff, and then he's got the talk show and he's gonna have to use somewhat of that with Strowman and Maverick, who are both gonna be like, I don't know, man, I got a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Seems like I like this creative. It's fine with me.
Well, obviously,
24/7 title.
I mean, we all know Strowman's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? He's going to be one of those guys that works at WWE for years to come.
Until he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine. Vince McMahon has got pictures of him in his wallet. Like there's
yeah, Strowman is exactly the type of guy Vince McMahon loves a dude like that.
You want to come over and work out with me tonight?
That's some good shit.
So let's go ahead and get to the pay-per-view from this past weekend. I actually watched the entire thing, which was very surprising. And
before we start, let's get an overall out of 10 stars. Or I guess out of 5 stars, since we're talking wrestling, Dave Meltzer style. We'll go out of 5 stars. What do you give the pay-per-view?
Are there people that do 10-star ratings? What the hell? Where'd you get the 10-star rating?
His name's Dave Meltzer.
I was gonna say an out of 10, like a 1 out of 10, a 5 out of. You know what I'm saying? I was gonna do that, but let's just stick with the 5 stars. You know what I mean? So out of 5 stars total possible, let's go around and give what our rating was of that paper.
Go for it, Ryan. Let's hear it.
For the entire pay-per-view or for the...
Entire pay-per-view. AEW, I forgot what it was called. No. All or nothing.
Yeah, double or nothing.
Double or nothing.
Is it double or nothing?
Yep, DON.
It's the first pay-per-view from last year.
I'm trying.
Ryan's really got to think about it.
I really haven't watched that many, or it's been a while since I've seen an AEW pay-per-view. I watched like the first 2 or 3 that they had, and I guess comparatively to those, I'd call it, probably a 4-star. I think if the Stampede match hadn't have been on there, then yeah, it would have been a very forgettable pay-per-view. But the Stampede match probably gets it a couple stars on its own merit.
I would agree with you. I'd say 4 out of 5 overall.
That ladder match probably took away at least a half a star. I mean,
oh god,
I'm giving the entire pay-per-view 2 stars, and I'm also calling it worst AEW pay-per-view, worse than Fyter Fest last year, which was which was also at Daly's Place, but was an absolute massacre. I mean, a total complete abortion. That pay-per-view was, oh man, dude, the image of that pay-per-view in my head is Tyson yawning.
Dude, how bored was Mike Tyson? Jesus Christ. He was so bored, they had to keep cutting the camera away from him and to like these shit camera angles of like Taz with a ladder in front of his fucking head. Like, they had no idea how bored Tyson was going to be. He looked like he was on some fucking Xanax or something, man.
And the fact that they're actually working him into an angle now is very surprising.
He looked bored when he walked out last night. He was like, I guess I'm fucking here, like,
Well, I feel like Tony Khan and them, they took offense to how hard everyone on the internet was ripping on them after that, because they got no press coverage from it. Like, ESPN that day had run all day Tyson fights. And then on SportsCenter Saturday night, they did a Tyson top 10, because they don't have sports right now. So the top 10 was top 10 Mike Tyson knockouts. Right. Then they talked to Teddy Atlas, and after that, and had a boxing guy talk some about. Never was there any mention of anything about him being on AEW tonight, or any of that stuff wasn't mentioned. And everybody ripped them up, especially after he yawned and everything during the pay-per-view. And I feel like they were like, no, we got to do this again. And so maybe Tyson even felt bad for it, because it seemed like he clowned them. And so either way, they agreed to do this and tried to push it, tried to take it up a notch this week. I feel like they tried to cover what they had done before. And I mean, completely originally. Like, I don't know where they came up with the idea to have. Did you even realize Rashad Evans came out with him? Yeah, I didn't recognize him either. Yeah, the guy with the dreads was Rashad Evans, and then Vitor Belfort was out there with him, and then Henry Cejudo. They had an Oompa Loompa.
Oh my God! You're kind of blowing that.
And I don't know if I still don't understand why Will Ferrell had on all that mascara. Or was that the drummer?
Red Hot Will Ferrell.
I can't tell the difference in those two guys. But either way, I don't know why.
The pay-per-view, Chris. Let's go back to the pay-per-view. I mean, you can't say that there were no good matches in the whole pay-per-view. I mean, we all know the ladder match was absolute fucking trash. All right, but there was some good matches after that. MJF and Jungle Boy. That was
the ladder match. For me, the ladder match had probably the best moment of the pay-per-view. The best moment to me, the best moment of the pay-per-view was when Orange Cassidy walked over to the announcing booth on his way to the ring. It was like, "How do you win this match?" They were like, "You have to climb up the ladder and get that down." He's like, "Oh," like let out this sigh, like he was gonna have to. And then he gets in the ring and doesn't even unfold the ladder; just stands on it 1 inch off the ground, and holds his hands up to try to grab it.
Well,
I thought that was the moment of the pay.
Yeah, he was the best part of the ladder match, but I mean, I think the MJF Jungle Boy match was solid. Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose, that was a decent match, but I'm just glad to see Shida with the belt. And then I thought Moxley versus Mr. Brody Lee was a solid match too. All the spots came off pretty perfect, and them going through the floor like that looked good. Brody Lee coming up with blood all over his face was nice. I like that. And I had fun during the Stampede match. I mean, it was entertaining, but I wouldn't call it a good match.
Yeah, I don't think compared to the Boneyard match or
let's not compare
John Cena and the Fiend.
Anything to the Boneyard match. You can't compare anything to the Boneyard match. That shit was.
But no, I think even the Cena and the Fiend thing at WrestleMania was better than that. To me, I liked that better. I thought the attempted drowning was a little off color with Shad and everything.
God. I hadn't even thought of that. I really hadn't even thought of that, Chris.
That was as soon as they even presented the pool, I was like, oh no.
Oh no, this is.
And like, yeah, I've talked to Chris about this, but I thought they could have at least gone in a different direction with it, and not, because they wanted to have the whole angle with Matt Hardy, like changing his clothes in the pool. Like they could have had that happen without like all the drowning and.
Yeah, I guess you guys are right. Maybe they filmed that like before, and they were just like, "Nah, we're eating this shit sandwich. This is coming out."
His body was found on Wednesday or Thursday, and that was taped on Friday. So.
Oh God!
Like,
well,
especially when they were walking out of the pool, and he was just kind of floating there. I was like, dude, like, yeah,
that's a boner. That's a boner right there. Now that speaking of AEW boners, that was a big boner. Well, I really hadn't given that much thought. Shit, that might be the best point you've made, Chris.
Well, the AEW marks have just been burying that. Like they've just not really been drawing that much attention to it. Because I thought surely like Twitter was going to blow up after that, but it really didn't.
Oh, dude, all AEW fans, including myself, are trick-ass marks and mark-ass tricks.
100%. But the spot of the night was when Jericho challenged the call of the 2 count. I mean that was absolutely legendary. I mean,
that's a lie. You're a liar.
Aubrey had to go in the tent, look it over, found out it was a 2 count, and the match continued. It's good to see instant replay finally being utilized in professional wrestling. It's something that I personally have been calling for years and years, and it's finally seems like the wrestling is catching up with the technology. So
also, what was up with the ref coming out and telling the other ref that there was some cheating going on? You never see that. How come that isn't happening constantly? We're all seeing rampant cheating now. All the fucking sudden, there's a ref back there making sure nobody's cheating. That's some BS.
In the ladder match, I think we talked about another. It was like mind-bogglingly original. This idea they had where they paired a new younger wrestler, Brian Cage, in his debut with an older wrestler like Taz. Where did they come up with that idea?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that is such a good idea because he's got so much experience and he can talk for him and come up. Wow, that is nothing like Lance Archer and Jake the Snake. And
I mean, Brian Cage is a young man. He's clearly only maybe 39 or so. I don't know how old he is.
And is Arn Anderson still Cody's coordinator or whatever they were calling him? He's not the coach. He's the coordinator because he kind of looked like Andy Reid from the Kansas City Chiefs. And so like they had him, you remember they used to have him with that like Waffle House menu type playbook thing that he had. And he would talk, when he talked to Cody, he'd put it over his mouth and stuff. Like, is he still the coordinator or not? I don't know.
Yeah, he's still, technically that's his title, right? He's there. He's coordinating. I don't know if he had the Waffle House menu. I actually don't remember if he had anything in his hands.
And I think I don't know if are we ready to talk about Cody and Lance yet from the pay-per-view?
For God's sake! Yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like, first off, I completely misunderstood. Okay, so now, like before, when I thought the TNT Championship was like a TV championship, and like it was, like, oh, we were on TNT, that's our TV deal. I was like, it's essentially just, Tony Khan giving Cody a belt for being just a beautiful human to him. But now that I understand what TNT stands for, terrible neck tattoo. Now that I understand terrible neck tattoo championship is what I completely believe Cody. Who else could you give a belt like that to? That's definitely for him. And what a belt it is! What a belt it is!
I mean, it is a beautiful belt.
That belt makes the 24/7 championship look like a Fender Squire. Like it's an amazing, beautiful piece of artwork compared to. What is the deal? And then to kind of preface it with, oh, and the belt didn't get finished because of the pandemic, like they said, like kind of as an afterthought. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Like,
that belt is the Fender Mustang of belts, is what it is.
I know for a fact every one of those guys involved with the ownership group of AEW, as well as Tony Khan by himself, have a belt collection that would fill. It'd be like, I don't know. It'd be like my beach ball collection. It would be just a huge collection filling a room to capacity.
Why do you have so
they
many
have belts.
beach balls?
How could they not? How could they not? I wouldn't even know how to ensure that. How could they not possibly find a belt that was something better than that, at least by Wednesday? Okay, like, okay, sure. The pay-per-view's on Saturday, and they said that then, and everyone, like, just 2 girls, 1 cup style, took a shit on it on Twitter immediately.
Yeah, instantly.
Just soft-served it.
It's not like
how
AEW.
Could you not find something else before Wednesday?
It's not like AEW has a track record for throwing together merchandise and things of that nature at the very last minute and then just kind of putting it
enough.
out there.
Yeah, I mean, in reference to Cody Rhodes winning the belt, I just see 2 Cody Rhodes pointing at each other like Spider-Man. You know, it's just, you know what I'm saying? It's just what did one Cody Rhodes say to the other Cody Rhodes? Cody Rhodes, like that's what it feels like to me. It just.
Speaking of Spider-Man, I think the Raw Tag Team Championships and the AEW TNT Championships are the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. You know what I mean? Like they look exact. They're the silver with the white belt. You know, like they look so similar.
It's like that meme, like, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but don't make it too obvious. Like. They just
very
kind of
nice.
Very
nice.
subtle changes. It's like when you go to Walmart and you look at their guitar selection and you see the Starcasters, like, you know, hung up on the rack. That's basically what the TNT title belt kind of. It's the Starcaster of title belts.
It did look like they went into a pawn shop and said, "What do you have that I can get today?" Like,
what's a knockoff belt from a wrestling promotion that nobody knows about? Oh, cool, that'll work. What is that? Like $30? Sweet, let's go. Oh no, 25? Awesome.
I'm gonna need you to put the super generic ass TNT the cable channel logo on it for me too, because man, their logo looks super generic. Like back when it was when Nitro was there and they had that kind of yellow and red TNT, you know, logo and stuff like that was. That's the logo I remember of TNT, but the current logo is the most nondescript. It's like it looks like it was created in Silicon Valley. It's like all lowercase. I don't know. It's not all lowercase, but it's like very nondescript.
It's such a waste of a talent like Lance Archer, who I think is a really good wrestler, and he's definitely a presence in the fucking room. I'll tell you that. But, like, give him all that hype just to have him beat by Cody in a not that great match after he fucking – I don't know. I felt like the match between him and Dustin Rhodes a couple weeks ago was way better.
Oh, the retirement match?
A retirement match, which is always a joke in wrestling, you know. But I just feel like –
Dustin Rhodes has retired like 3 times since he joined AEW.
I know, but Lance Archer, like, he comes in – he smashes everybody. I mean, in fairness, they were putting little bitty, teeny tiny dudes in front of him because there was nobody for him to fucking wrestle, you know? Who does he wrestle now? Like, does he just go to the Dark Order? Does he have a feud with Brody Lee? Like, who gives a shit about Lance Archer now? Like, who fucking cares?
I mean, I've said this on the last few weeks' previous shows that we've done. I've said this all along. I mean, that's the reason that he was there. The only reason it's Lance Archer is because all the other big guys have been scooped up by Vince, because Vince... As soon as this started, Vince scooped up every monster he could find so that they couldn't have any monsters of quality. And
well, now they got Brian Cage.
Lance Archer's the best. Oh yeah, but he's not very. I guess he is. He's big, but he's like Rhino. He's big. He's not super tall or anything. And so they needed somebody like that for Cody to beat for this to get Cody, you know, to push, because that was the point of getting a big guy like that. Every big guy always just trying to, you know, put over other guys. This is poor Big Show's career. But yeah, no, I saw that coming all along. I'm surprised. I don't know. I'm sure that Cody would have rather had somebody else. But the deal is I'm sure that Moxley had first choice, and Brody Lee probably is who he picked because they've worked together before back in, as I keep stating, 2015 on the pre-show on Extreme Rules.
They had a good match. Brody Lee and Moxley. That was a solid match. It was way better than that match, the fucking empty stadium match between Moxley and old Jake Hager. That was garbage.
You don't feel like maybe the biting of the bloody face during the pandemic was a little off color?
No, I think it's right on point. It was definitely more on point than the drowning now that we've been talking about.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is if Renee gets sick from this,
I'm going to be pretty pissed too, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Really, now we know really who the treasure to the wrestling community is in that family, for sure.
Oh, come on now. Moxley's good. I like Moxley. He's doing what he can do.
Now you want to talk about somebody who can mediate a web podcast. Wow. Renee on Backstage has been killing it. Bringing in CM Punk with his controversial ideas, bringing in Booker T with his absolutely toeing the company line 100% of the time.
Seth Rollins going on there and basically trashing Jim Cornette without saying his name.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, it was surprised, guys. Jim Cornette did not like the AEW pay-per-view. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked. If anybody see, this is what DM Punk is trying to do. He's trying to actually make a career out of trashing AEW because we call
that's all Jim Cornette does.
The Jim Cornette business model.
I'm not trying to do. Listen, I like all wrestling, and I just want to point out when people are, you want to rub people's noses in it when they shit the bed. We get it. Oh yeah, totally. No, I don't have any problem doing that. I'm just saying I'm not anti AEW. I'm just from the school that, like, with all the resources and all the stuff that they have, if any of them had half the talent at booking a wrestling program that they think they do, they could really be like competing with NXT on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
And stuff. And they're beating them and stuff. But what I'm saying is they could really be like making people say, this is what we should be doing. But right now, that's not the case. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, unless you are over 30 and a male and you think about wrestling in the shower, there's absolutely no way that you're,
but you do, but somehow
let me put it this way. There's no way that you are, if your kids start watching AEW and they're like, hey mom, will you take us to this? And you don't care about wrestling. So to me, that's the least mark people, is just parents who take their kids to wrestling. Okay. They're just being good parents. They're not marks. Okay. And so, like, to me, those kind of people, it would be like, what? It'd be like ESPN when Mike Tyson was, even now pushing Jericho and stuff. I know CBS has picked it up and somebody else has picked up the story, but it's just, they're just like, okay, whatever. It's like you forgetting that Chad was at the show that we were at and stuff. It's just like, yeah, I mean,
I'll never forget. I'll never
25, 30% like here.
I'm sorry, guys. I was never a big Crime Time fan, but going back to what we were talking about with Lance Archer possibly being buried, and it's like, what are they going to do with him now? Like, the idea of that is to kind of suggest that AEW plans anything in advance whatsoever. I mean,
I agree with you. Yeah, they're winging it, bro. This is all real loose. Loose.
Tony Khan said those few episodes that they taped right when the first few episodes they taped without a crowd, when they taped a whole bunch of episodes in one afternoon and showed those for like almost a month. Tony Khan said that those episodes were all written by him like that morning or the afternoon before, and he was proud of that and stuff. And I said it last week or the week before. I said, that doesn't surprise me that's when that's how you wrote those. That's what it seems like. It seems like you wrote those in like 5 minutes, And
does anybody else miss Jericho being a commentator? Because God, that was a joy.
Well, dude, anytime Jericho's on the screen, it's entertaining.
Well, it's when you replace Jericho with Excalibur, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, dude, and Excalibur was not doing a good job at the pay-per-view. He kept
JR, you could tell JR started to get on to him a couple of times, like when he said Brody Lee never tapped out, And JR was like, nobody needs to diminish this victory. It was a clean victory, and he because JR didn't want him to say that. You know what I mean? I understood what he meant and I understood what JR meant, but JR was worried that you're trying to, with wrestling commentating, you're talking at like a 5-year-old level. Like you always want to make sure you don't want to counterpoint something just to be devil's advocate. And you could tell he got the way he said it to him. He was like, yeah, don't do that, Junior.
He had barbecue sauce coming out of his fucking ears. He was so pissed.
His lip moved. He was
slightly.
You can see that one that when he gets mad, it starts to go up there.
Excalibur is a pumpkin-headed dipshit, as Jericho said. Excalibur is a pumpkin-headed dipshit. I agree, and he needs to shut his ass.
Compared to JR, yeah. I mean, I think even Shivani is like that. Like Shivani is,
I believe it's Scavone.
At his best, Tony Schiavone was, kind of like, as long as there was somebody there to wrangle him, like Heenan or, you know what I'm saying, or Mike Tenay or now JR. As long as there was somebody there to wrangle him, Shivani was fine. But like on his own, like Shivani can go off in some weird places. He'll, you know what I mean? He just anybody that it's as big of a myth as it is about Jake the Snake being a draw that Shivani was ever a good announcer. He's a classic voice.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean? He's like, but he's not. He never was a great wrestling announcer. He's not even as a bad guy, not even as a buffoon like Jerry Lawler kind of plays a buffoon, but he really knows what he's doing. Not like that at all. Like Shivani I legitimately did not know that was called a tope concito. I did not know that.
Best thing Shivani has had any part in is getting Britt Baker some heat recently. Other than that, he's just there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we're attributing that to him. I mean, her boyfriend that
I'm just saying he was involved
is Adam Cole, but whatever, it's probably them. It's probably them giving him coaching, not her really like one of the top 10 wrestlers in the world right now boyfriend that's at home with her all the time and listen to people like me who ripped on her when she did her first interview.
It was garbage, but they did parlay that. That is one thing that AEW did correctly is parlay Britt Baker's fucking vomit on the mic into something decent. Because, I'm compelled to see her talk now. Every time she's on the screen, I'm like, okay, cool.
I do feel like she's gotten a lot better. I own a Britt Baker shirt now. I have the one where she's bleeding from the Sheeta knee and stuff.
Yeah.
I do think she's gotten a lot better on the mic, at night and day better. And I do think they moved on from it, but what they moved on with is the role model. Even that shirt says role model on it. All of her stuff says role model on it.
What's wrong with that?
Bailey came out with it 3 weeks before that when Bailey cut it.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's proof positive that they skim WWE programming.
Oh, God, yeah. Casino ladder match.
Well, because if you're skimming WWE programming and you're not actually watching it, then what part would you skim? Every part with Bailey. And so that's right. To me, that's exactly what they did. They skimmed that. They were like, oh, yeah, everybody sees her heel turn. Okay, bang, there. Everybody knew it was going to be her. So, and now they get to be together because they're bad guys. Everybody saw that coming. But it just shows they skimmed and didn't at all listen to anything and see that literally their biggest competitor has a character that looks almost exactly like your character to someone who doesn't know the two people. They dress almost exactly the same. Their color scheme, and everything. And they sell shirts that say role model on them right there. That's just poor marketing. You know what I mean? That's just poor because that's allowing the bigger corporation to cover you. So even if her deal does take off, they have a previous claim to that, and so they can draft off of it. And so your profits won't be as big as they could be.
Right.
From, you know what I'm saying? And so that's just poor. That's just, to me, that's just proof positive that they skim the program. And you can't, if you really are as viscerally ready to deal with competing with them over all their programs and everything, And you have to be studying that. You have to have people at least who are studying that, who are there and have the ability to go, excuse me, I need to let you guys know that, like, if we do that, here's why. That won't be the best way we could do. We could use any other word. We can go any other way.
Great. Yeah, that was it was whack a little bit. Now that you're mentioning it, that it is basically the same gimmick. I mean, almost exactly.
Last night we saw the cage fight match, the fight pit. Like I expected like a fight milk sign somewhere in the background, but anyway, like in the fight pit match, I don't even know the guy's name. He gets his teeth knocked out.
Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher.
Yeah, Thatcher. Which I think this was the best match he's been in. He seemed a little rough around the edges, a little like not very polished. I know that's sort of his approach, but like a lot of the matches he's been in since he came to NXT have been not that great. This was probably the best match he's been a part of. I mean, fuck.
Dude, he's so fucking cool. He doesn't.
I like him.
He doesn't have any social media. He's so fucking cool.
I know.
The only thing I will say, as much as I like him, and I like that this has gone over because they can do anything with Pete Dunne. It's very obvious this was supposed to be Pete Dunne.
I know. I agree.
Like,
and I miss
this whole thing. It's very obvious because throw Thatcher in there, and you literally don't have to change anything but the word Pete Dunne to Tim Thatcher, and the whole angle works exactly the same. Do the Newly Bros segment and all that stuff goes exactly the same if you throw him in there. And so I feel bad, but you can do anything with Pete Dunne and he'll be over. Whereas with Tim Thatcher, this really did get him over. I did like that a lot. Ryan Atomic Moon, he probably doesn't remember, but you and I do. Obviously, this was a callback, especially with Kurt Angle being the referee, to the TNA match between Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle, where they had the MMA style cage match. You remember that? You remember that, don't you, Jonah Hexx? Don't you remember when in TNA when Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe had the cage match? Where they wore gloves and it was like a weird, like almost MMA match. It was super shooty. It was like a Japanese shoot style.
Yeah.
But it was in the cage like that. I think they used ropes, but
there were ropes in that one.
Well, but Riddle had done that pay-per-view a few years ago before he joined WWE, the Bloodsport pay-per-view, where they do no ropes and it's submission only. And so he's worked without ropes before, so that's not that big of a deal for him. Plus, you had the cage and everything. I think it was, to me, that's what they were trying to do. They did a more WWE version, a more like entertaining version of that match because it wasn't as shooty as the Kurt Angle Samoa Joe thing. Yeah. But if you guys haven't watched that from, I don't even remember when that was, like 2008, 2009. Maybe a little later than that, but in TNA, Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle had a match I want to say it was called a cage fight or something like that, but it was basically essentially they didn't really advertise what they were going to do, and then when you got in the match, you saw that it was just weird,
I remember that match, actually. I like that match a lot. But yeah, no, I like Timothy Thatcher. I thought he was great coming in. I wanted him to be better than he was, and I don't know what it was. It was just like he seemed, I don't know, like he hadn't wrestled in a while for some reason for the first few matches. But yeah, this fight pit was pretty fucking awesome, man. Like the teeth getting busted out of his fucking head and the blood and all that shit was pretty good. Yeah, it did fucking rule. And I just like the look of him. He does look like a guy who would literally fight you in the street and eat your face. Like he just does,
anybody that doesn't have social media is so fucking cool to me. Like if you don't have any social media, you're so fucking cool because I don't care. I don't care. You know what I mean?
I mean, he cares enough. His social media is his last name on his little wrestling panties. It's got Thatcher on it.
Exactly. Yeah. There. Claimed he didn't own a TV during the Broly way.
yeah.
Bros.
I just can't believe that. It makes sense that Pete Dunne was supposed to be in this angle, but it's weird to me that they put Timothy Thatcher over Matt Riddle, who's like an accomplished actual MMA fighter, especially with somebody that doesn't have any sort of social media following or like really like a terrible amount of marketability. But I'm sure Matt Riddle's career will survive this defeat.
Well, doesn't this give him
yeah.
marketability now, though? I mean,
Oh, wait, I thought you guys knew this. The reason that he lost is because he's going to be on SmackDown this week. He just got moved to SmackDown.
Yeah, he's moving to SmackDown.
Yeah,
okay.
I thought you guys knew that. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, he's moving to SmackDown. That was his swan song out of this.
Yeah, that's why they dropped the belts, and that's why, I mean, they knew he's been going to go to SmackDown for a while.
He's full time moving to SmackDown, and so I don't know. I think that I don't know. I can't imagine a better intro to at least to NXT than what Timothy Thatcher has gotten. It's like EC3's. It's like Nakamura's or Finn Balor's. It's like it's like he got to script it essentially. Even though I know that it's just a copy and paste, him on top of Pete Dunne like that. In that role, it's still like it was perfect for his character. It was absolutely amazing for his character.
No, now that I know the Matt Rule's moving up, yeah, it makes total sense now. So
yeah, and this definitely gives Thatcher a push of legitimacy, so that maybe when Dunn comes back, Dunn has to, I don't know, rectify the situation, as it were, come after Thatcher.
Speaking of NXT, just the Shotzi Blackheart tribute to Owen Hart that she did yesterday. That was pretty tremendous.
What about that Dark Side of the Ring with Owen Hart?
Yeah,
I haven't watched
easily the most emotional one. Like especially, oh man, that was easily the most emotional one. Like several people have said, I know you've said, Atomic. You said like it. The Benoit didn't hit like that. Even the Benoit deal didn't hit like that because there's so many mixed emotions with it. Even when you see like his son in the Benoit one and how sad it is for his son to not really be able to use that name, or if he does, it's just gonna hurt him. But still being proud, like that's a mixed. But man, the one with Owen Hart, there's no mixed emotions there. It's sad.
But does anybody actually like Shotzi Blackheart? I mean, I want to like her, but I just don't give a fuck. I don't like her gimmick. I don't know what her gimmick is, and then that stupid little ow wolf shit she does.
She's
not
a
into
chick
it.
who, if you don't know what her gimmick is she's a chick who runs karaoke at like dive bar.
Yeah, I know. I know that she legitimately like worked at a dive bar up until
no. She's weeks ago. I mean, that's her character. Like that's What did you think her character was like?
No, I know, but it's
like
just
it's like she's Sean Perry, but like a female. Like
yeah.
That's hilarious.
I'm just not into the gimmick. I'm so sick of every chick coming out with some brightly colored hair, like acting sort of faux punk rock or whatever it is. Like, I think she's a sound wrestler, except for the dump she took, the other day, or yesterday, really. But yeah, I don't know, man. I want to care, but I don't. I just don't care about her. If she had died, I'd have been like, nope. What are you gonna do?
I was gonna say if she keeps on botching stuff like that, then you probably won't have to worry about her for too much longer.
Yeah, because this isn't her first botch.
Okay,
I've seen her botch a lot of shit.
Yeah. Okay. So before we just keep punching down for laughs, falling more into the Jim Cornette line of things, I wanted to bring up how Tony Khan this week, since Saturday, has been on Twitter repeatedly calling himself Big Bicep Tony.
I saw that.
Yeah, at 8 p.m. The other day, he put out a tweet that said, Big Bicep Tony did in fact call in the bad boy Joey Janela last night and ask him for a favor. Hashtag AEW double or nothing. Hashtag AEW Don. Okay, and my favorite comment from that was, outstanding choice, reminds me of young Roddy Piper. And then the reply to that, he's as much Roddy Piper as Otis is Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, that is rude. Although Joey Janela, speaking of people and how they perceive themselves, Joey Janela, who is a party boy, definitely is a ham and cheese sandwich with legs. He definitely looks like a guy who just woke up and was like, oh, I'm gonna fucking go wrestle a match. Like he does it He
He's
doesn't
the
look
only
the
person.
part.
He's the only person I've ever seen that runs like Steven Seagal. Like
He
besides
does.
Steven
He
Seagal.
runs exactly like Steven Seagal, dude. Oh my god. Oh, you're right, Chris.
You know, he is super unathletic, but I mean, if we're going to talk about super unathletic, pretty much anybody that's willing to take hardcore bumps in AEW is either unathletic or tiny. Because, like, the only person you would say isn't unathletic is maybe like Darby Allin, and he's so tiny.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
he's
Like, I'm
pretty
not saying
athletic.
that-
I mean, he looks the
Yeah.
part.
But he's so tiny. Whereas, like, Jimmy Havoc, he's decent tall. You know, he could be there. Looks
Yeah.
like he literally, like, lives at a China King buffet.
He does.
And then,
Yeah.
and I know, I mean, really, like,
Especially when he's standing next to Kip Sabian, who's, you know, arguably in fairly good shape. Definitely.
He's just watching. He's just like when they're at home. He's just watching.
Oh yeah, that's the sense I got from the little promo they cut. That Jimmy
he's
Havoc
just
is
watching.
definitely looking through the closet slats. He's peering.
Just watching.
He's just watching. Yeah.
I actually, when they had the MLW event in Fort Worth, I was tearing down everything afterwards, and Jimmy Havoc, like, I was up in a scissor lift, and Jimmy Havoc was kind of walking through, and I had to, like, let him by. I've probably honestly already talked about this in a separate podcast. I feel like it's my one, like, story that I tell over and over and over, but
Straight up, I want to go back and say I am saying he could do a little better with his look and his, you know, like, workout regimen and stuff, but I'm not ripping on him. I don't want to in any way condone ripping on Jimmy Havoc. I think the bumps he takes are some of the best in the business. Plus, I really don't want to piss off Tony Storm. And so, like, I just want to say, like,
Because we all know Tony Storm hangs on every fucking word you say. So you be careful.
She's
tread
my biggest
lightly.
fan, and so I don't want to.
Okay. All right. Oh, I didn't know you worked at MLW event. How was that? Was it a good one, or was it just like?
Dude, it was awesome. You should go watch it. It's on YouTube. There's a promo, or there's a match between MJF and what's the Von Erich that's wrestling.
The young Von Erich.
It's not Kevin. It's fuck. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
They have a match, and right before the match starts, MJF goes out there and he's like talking to the crowd. He's like, "Tonight, another Von Erich is going 6 feet under."
Oh my god,
like,
he is a treasure, MJF.
And he also had they had an empty arena match with him and the guy that wears overalls.
Oh yeah, what's his tick? That redneck guy, yeah.
Yeah, so go watch those two matches. And then there's also a barbed wire match between that guy and Jimmy Havoc that night, which was pretty interesting.
I like MLW. Every time I sit and watch it, which is not that often, but I try to catch it here and there, I think it's great. I mean, it always seems like it works.
Yeah, it's almost consistently better than AEW.
It really is, and I hate to say it, but that's how I feel about AEW. I love it. But then every time the episode is over, I'm always like, I feel like I missed out on something. I don't know. It just doesn't.
Well, to me, it's like they have MLW. It's like they're running a show. The program, the quality seems like they have the budget that MLW does. And they don't. They are putting on a full-fledged cable TV show. You know what I mean? Like, they are really... And no, I mean, the most obvious thing is right before the pandemic started, their crowds were non-existent. Like, they were lucky to sell 25-50% of the tickets for their shows, and they were still putting on good, like, production-wise, quality programming. You know what I mean? Like, they did a good job of where they put the cameras and how they shot it and where they rearranged the seating for something.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think some of their camera work and their audio glitches every episode. I think AEW has a lot of production issues.
But but that is my point. Is they have that huge budget and everything, and they don't put on a program like that meets those standards. They put on more of like an MLW product.
Yeah.
And MLW does it on to say a quarter of the budget would be probably ridiculously overpricing the budget because it's
they're doing everything on $5. Yeah. MLW is definitely like below Ring of Honor as far as production value.
We should plug the company we went and saw in Haltom City the other day. Like, what is the name of that company that did those shows? It was like
it's literally
it was like two steps above that.
It's like literally Dallas area wrestling. I can't even remember what the fuck it was called. Shit.
Yeah, it's something to that effect. I mean, going back to MLW's budget, I know for a fact, like with the equipment they were renting from like the company I worked for, yeah, that was like a budget deal, and then the whole thing was like in this volleyball like arena type thing. So
$5.
Yeah, that was wild
Yeah,
too.
but-
We put
but
that
you
in.
could-
We put that in. There was like all these tornadoes happening. It was pretty wild.
Oh, it was that night.
Yeah.
It was that night. Okay, no shit. Yeah, I was up in the city when that shit was going down. No, dude, I fucking love MLW. Like I said, every time I watch it, it feels great. But even if you produce something with $5, it could still be great. Yeah, having all the money in the world doesn't mean you're going to automatically have a good wrestling show. I mean,
one of my like when I was working and stuff, one of the matches that I would show people want and that I would study and stuff was an MLW match. As far as like how to do a really like hardcore brutal match good, and it was La Parka, who's recently died, versus Sabu in this just no setup. Yeah, it was just a no setup, just an MLW house show from about 2005-ish, 8, something like that. And it's, if you've seen it on, you can find it on YouTube. It's a brutal match. Like, I mean, La Parka never like is in danger of losing his mask, but 5-10 minutes into the match, he is scissors to the face, getting cut open. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating at all. That's what I'm saying. Is like it's a fucking serious, and they're both way old. It's way after both of them are way through with their prime. And they just go out there and tear the people in the crowd are literally like, I don't know what's happening. But by the grace of God, there were cameras there doing like multi-camera angle cameras there doing a good shooting work of it. And Joey Styles is calling the match.
No shit, really?
Yeah. And I think by himself. So I think it's like after the fact. You know what I mean? Like I think they taped it and then he puts the audio of him calling it on there afterwards. But that's to me, that's like, especially when I was like, that was one of the matches that I studied, and as far as like how to correctly do something really brutal, like scissors to the face. Because you can't go out there and like, okay, we're going to headlock and then I'm going to go scissors to the face.
Yeah. But I mean, how many underground, like sort of, independent shows start that way? That's one way that a ton of Juggalo Championship Wrestling, greatest wrestling promotion of all time.
That's a Juggalo saying that, everybody. Jonah Hexx is probably the second coolest Juggalo after Tech 9.
I'm just not gonna.
So speaking of MLW, they have a pretty good roster. MJF used to wrestle there a lot. I don't know if I think he's not wrestling there anymore because the whole thing with him and Mance Warner, whatever his name is, was an I Quit match. Basically, he had to leave the company forever. So I think that was his farewell match.
And in wrestling, you all know that means that. Like, that is a binding contract. They won't even let you. It's like they ban you from the server.
That's true, yeah. But
has anyone ever even done that before? Come back from a retirement match? I don't know. I don't like this is.
No, that was the last match that MJF had in MLW, was that I Quit match, and then the next place you saw him was AEW.
Well, he was in AEW, and I think still doing like some contract matches with MLW. But Alex Hammerstone, I know his contract is coming up pretty soon, and MLW is actually planning on re-signing him. You'd figure that would be somebody that possibly AEW would go after. But, they got him, they've got, Brian Pillman Jr. and that damn Von Erich kid. Lance Von Erich, I think is his name. Is that it?
I assume that anybody from the independent circuit whose contract is up, AEW, Big Bicep Tony is going to be like trying to suck them up.
They're calling him that. Like if I mess up and I don't call him Big Bicep Tony,
he's Big Bicep Tony as far as I'm concerned from here on out.
Well, there we go. He's Big Bicep Tony from here on out. So we really haven't talked very much WWE. Is there anything anybody wants to say about WWE?
I'm glad Humberto Carrillo is back.
Yeah, that's pretty good to
Love
see.
that kid. Love that kid. I like that Austin Theory is now a part of Seth Rollins' stable. Like that. I think it works there. There was an embrace. Seth Rollins embraced him, and it was a very emotional moment for Austin Theory. You could see him sort of break, and he's like, finally, some acceptance, because he was kicked out of Selena Vega's stable so unceremoniously and so brutally,
It was almost as if, Seth Rollins was accepting a new child, like being very nurturing, very motherly in a way towards Austin Theory.
I feel like you could definitely see that Austin Theory was like, I've never experienced real love until this moment,
That's
and Buddy Murphy was like, that's a lot of shirts.
Murphy was basically just like, where's the cat? He's such a fucking ass clown, man.
It's Marshall Von Erich. You were trying.
Marshall.
There you go.
It's criminal what they're doing to my boy Buddy Murphy, and criminal what they're doing to my boy Otis, and criminal what they're doing to my boy Tucker. Is Tucker being phased out due to geographical concerns, or are they basically...
he's getting buried. He's fucking gone forever, because Otis is over. They give the push to Otis. Tucky, he's fucking done, man. Sucks for him, dude, because he's...
It does. Dude, Otis is a loyal guy, and I feel like he's going to do everything he can to pull him along, but I feel like that train has left town. Not even the caboose.
Yeah, there's nothing doing on that. Otis is definitely the cult of personality, and Tucky, great worker and not terrible on the mic or anything. But
Brutus Beefcake Barber. You know what I mean? He's Brutus. Yeah. He's Brutus the Beefcake Barber. He's like that level of like, we'll make him a beefcake, okay? We'll make him a barber too, okay? Well, just how about we just put him in whatever Hulk Hogan's wearing, but like a sidekick version of that, just like some red and just like red and yellow. It'll work. Also, I wanted to give the Marshall Von Erich thing. I wanted to give credit to Sean the intern. Haven't talked about him in a few weeks, but he
how is Sean?
For us.
Yeah,
Sean the intern doing well. He's over here, in his cage.
He's been quarantined.
But yeah, I wanted to give him thanks for that. So we're doing a contest where this year, whoever did we determine what I think it's whoever sends us the most money, I believe, they get to duct tape Sean to any telephone pole of their choice in Deep Ellum for one entire night.
Oh,
that'll be nice. That'll be.
It's a year-long deal, so feel free to keep adding to your total.
So is that like a Venmo or a Cash App thing? How do people send that in?
Yeah, we'll link that at the bottom. We'll link that down there just below
PayPal.
And and so it'll whoever does that gets to duct tape him to any telephone pole they choose within the limits of Deep Ellum in Dallas. So, and if you know of that area, like that's quite a fun place to be duct taped to a telephone.
We were talking about
it would be for one night, yes, and the night of your choice. We were going to do Halloween night.
I was going to say
not this year, but next year. Okay, so yeah, that's enough about Sean.
I'm sorry, we were talking about WWE, and I'm sure you guys noticed the like hockey style clear plastic going up. I thought that was a good look. Honestly, they're probably going to keep that in place forever now. No reason to ever get rid of that.
Yeah, I see them definitely hanging on to it. It's going to be hard for them to do bumps where you go over the railing, but it makes sense now why they've kept the railing this entire time during all the empty arenas, because they're going to bring it back with plexiglass.
Yeah, I like the look of that. I thought it looked decent. I agree with you about nobody going over the railing, but it kind of looks cool when people were smashing into it. It wobbles. It looks like. I
mean, they'll do like Otis at Elimination Chamber and have somebody like crash through it and stuff, and then be like, "Oh my God, he just broke some really thin plexiglass. How did this happen?"
Well, the plexiglass it's actually steel. It's a weird alloy of plexiglass, and sort of steel is infused in there. It's all steel, bro.
Yeah, bro.
And I don't know if you know this, but the apron is the most unforgiving part of the ring.
It is. A lot of people don't know that. Speaking of which, did y'all notice?
I feel like you guys
Did y'all notice during the
I feel like
MJF
maybe-
match when he took the it was like kind of reverse Hurricane Rana looking thing? He just like completely hit the back of his head like right on the edge of the apron. I was like, man, that probably hurt really bad.
Actually, if you watch that in replay, his head is literally just to the side of it. Like it may have slightly grazed him, but I think they landed actually perfectly to make it look devastating, but where there was no real potential for injury. I watched that, and I literally, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, God, he's been murdered. And then, but I'm a trick-ass Mark, like I said.
And then
no,
Shotzi
I'm-
Blackheart was like,
look-
hold my beer.
Everyone noticed that because, like Atomic Moon, anytime any tiny hair on his precious head is in danger, I am right there looking at it as hard as possible because he is also like Adam Cole, one of the top 10 wrestlers. Like, but one of those guys you could number one draft pick if you were to redraft right now because of his
You're
age
speaking on
and everything.
MJF? MJF,
Yeah,
you mean?
of course. He's
oh God,
he's
he's a treasure.
He's as good as Jericho, at least in the past, and which you could build a company around by itself.
You could.
And he's got so much more room to go with it, and he's willing to go wherever. Like you can tell, it's like MC Lunchbox said last week. It's like, come on, EC3, how you gonna have a guy who's younger than you and littler than you steal your gimmick after you invented that gimmick, like, and do it, and everybody be like, yep, that's his now. Yep, moving on.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to like turn into like some sort of cult leader.
That's the go-to. Oh, speaking of cult leaders, okay, so Brody Lee gets destroyed, choked into unconsciousness. Well, again, you're looking at a situation where it's like all that hype. Where does it go? What happens now?
His basically his first
Evil
match.
Uno come back, and does Evil Uno show back up and like depose Brody Lee? I don't understand what's supposed to happen now. You know?
Yeah, they don't either. They
I
constantly.
know they don't. I know they don't. We should just send in our suggestions. I'm sure they'll just skim them, and they'll be like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a good idea." Fucking Evil Uno comes back and threatens Brody Lee's position.
They've done it with every single wrestler they've tried to hype. Like every single one of them, they bring them in and then they lose their first big match, and then it's like, oh, okay.
In the I don't know, since he left, in the entire time, he's had now as good of a possible push. Plus, it was in the pandemic where everyone had nothing to do but sit at home and watch the TV that was on there, okay? He had that entire run during this right there. Go to New York City right now, go to Times Square, go to Rome, Italy, go anywhere in the world, whatever, any big, Tokyo, Japan, okay? Walk down the street, ask 100 people who Brody Lee is, and use his other names too. Like any what are the Bludgeon Brothers names, any of those, all that stuff, okay? Ask those people who he is. And when you start getting more than 2 or 3 out of those 100, then this will have been worth any of it. And that's what I think the kind of the point is like, okay, well, now he's the Dark Order. I think if I was them, I would feel stuck in this situation now because now we've given guaranteed money to somebody again, and we've given them the leadership of this great angle that we have, and we've either got to try to deal with that or we've got to, and give it to somebody else, which diminishes the gimmick in and of itself, which it's already.
The Dark Order, a great
I know
angle.
Atomic Moon. Yeah, I know you have qualms about the Dark Order, but either way, it's one of the groups they have going, and they've given him the leadership of it, and now it's like we can't do any more of a push, and the only people who care about you are people who 1-to-1 in testing dislike anything WWE does. So if you just dislike WWE, then that's the only way that you are like, yeah, no, Brody Lee is really killing it right now. Like, man, I know the work he is doing, like that fucking steak dinner where he made fun of Vince McMahon for not letting you eat while he eats. Oh man, that was.
I mean, I liked it.
That was like the pipe bomb energy.
Fun.
That changed my life, man. That changed my life. When Brody Lee did that. Nobody's doing that. Like Moxley last night trying to sell him, like comes out of nowhere seemingly, and then he's like, how do I describe this, Brian Cage? Comes out of nowhere seemingly, like he just 2 times does that. Like it's just, you know what I mean? It's stuff that somebody who is as has as much attention to detail as Vince McMahon would never let happen. Stuff like that. And he tries stuff, but he doesn't try stuff like this where he's just all ins everything and puts it out there. And then people are like, huh, okay.
So speaking of Vince McMahon giving the push to a person he's definitely going to abandon later, I would say, what is it? The guy who just won the United States Championship.
Apollo Crews.
That guy going nowhere fast. Also, dude, he cried like a little girl on crutches because he couldn't be in the Money in the Bank match, and that was not getting him over as far as I was concerned. So I already didn't care about him, and then he cried, and then he didn't, and now they're gonna give him the push, and it's like I don't care. Guaranteed, Vince McMahon is just like I don't know, do something with him for now, and then like we'll abandon him later, no big deal. We'll give him a sandwich.
All I'm saying is that Drake Maverick cried. That guy cried.
But that was a real cry.
What are you saying? Apollo Crews wasn't really crying because he couldn't be in the Money in the Bank ladder match? Is that what you're saying, sir?
I'm saying Apollo Crews was definitely not really crying. And if the Drake Maverick...
Next you're going to tell me Rey Mysterio didn't fall off a Titan Tower.
He did. That was real. Both of those men fell all the way off of Titan Tower and somehow managed to survive by skill and wit.
Who's that flying through the sky, R-E-Y?
Yes. Listen, though, Apollo Crews, not real tears. Drake Maverick, real tears. But again, I'm going to reiterate, trick-ass Mark, Mark-ass Trick.
Well, I feel like the United States Championship is kind of a burial in itself. I mean, I feel like the 24/7 Championship carries more weight than the United States Championship.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that.
How many belts in the WWE shop do you think they've sold more of? The 24/7 Championship or the oh my God, what's it? The
United States Championship. Dude, I think now that Gronk's got the 24/7 championship, I could give less of a fuck about it because fuck Gronk. That shit is stupid.
The promo he cut on Monday was actually pretty solid. I thought he did really good with that.
And, dude, he's fine. He's fine. He just annoys the piss pants off of me. I literally fucking can't stand the guy. I don't know. It's just like, oh my God, Gronkowski is here. And I'm like, yeah, so
dude,
fucking
if
what?
he loses the belt at something that has to do with an NFL game, it'll be the smartest thing. It will be the smartest thing that has ever happened. And Tony Khan will immediately copy it.
Immediately.
Within moments, he will like make something like that happen between something because he's got it. Like, oh well, no, I had this idea the other night.
Well, it also helps that his dad owns the Jaguars.
When some people were saying some stuff on Twitter, I had this idea about like what I should.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I definitely think Tony Khan sitting in some sort of evil, I won't call it a genius office, but very much like Lex Luthor, and he's got a bunch of TVs up and he's just watching all the other wrestling promotions and just taking fucking notes. I mean, it's obvious that that's what he's doing. And not very detailed notes either. He's just like writing buzzwords down, role model, ladder, casino ladder match. Yeah, that's the ticket. You know, I'm Big Bicep Tony now.
His dad's just sitting in the room, like doing actual like business, reading the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah,
I just imagine him wearing slippers. I can't imagine his dad not wearing slippers at all times, like inside the house. So,
did you notice on the casino match that they had the chip hanging like on a hook, and it wasn't even like they didn't have to undo anything. They just kind of took it off the hook.
Yeah.
I would have rather have ridden down on that than on the apparatus that they had Owen Hart on. I was about
to, man, yeah, you got there for, wow. Beat me to the pitch.
Ouch.
Wow.
What do we got? What do we think?
Quick release.
Collective. What do we think about Karrion Kross? How are we feeling about him in NXT?
Dude, I love Scarlett Bordeaux and Karrion Kross. Like, I can't get enough.
Yeah, I actually was really.
They're like if that Damian Priest guy was like good at what he was trying to do.
Oh, come on! Damian Priest is a good wrestler.
He's okay in the ring, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Dijakovic.
His gimmick is
way better.
His gimmick is Cringe City. His gimmick is like the guy from Grandma's Boy that thinks he's in the Matrix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like,
but carry across, dude, that whole their entrance is 20 minutes long, for God's sake. It's like a
part of it.
Yeah, I mean, she's good. He's definitely a specimen, but you knew he was going to come out and just smash on some people. And I knew right away they were going to throw him in a feud with Ciampa. I mean, you knew that because that's, obvious. But Ciampa gives legitimacy to pretty much anybody he wrestles with, I think.
Yeah, I'm really more of a Dexter Lumis guy.
Oh, dude, love
man, I love him.
Fucking love that guy. God in heaven, he's so good. All that motherfucker has to do is show up, and I'm into it.
What's the deal with teaming with Dream though? Like, what is the? I don't understand
God,
that.
if we're not even talking,
there's a lot of ways you could go, but I don't.
Sending dick pics to little kids. Are we going to talk about that?
Oh yeah, no, we can talk about that. I know a little bit about that.
He's scheduled for the pay-per-view.
Yeah, so
they're
just like, nah.
As far as I know, like, he has been cooperating with the police, and whether it's true or it's not, the police, at least at this point, aren't telling him or the WWE that they are in any way investigating him for it. They also believe him in saying that it was somebody hacked his account, and did these things without his approval, and so like that's supposedly like where we're at right now. Now that could change tomorrow because the police, like I said, if the police were investigating it and they were investigating him, they wouldn't be like, "Hey, yeah, we think he did something, but we're not quite sure yet."
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, in fairness, there's been a lot of WWE hacks. So this isn't the first time some shit like this has happened, and so I want to believe that the Velveteen Dream is on the up because I love him. I love him so much.
He needs to do a Timothy Thatcher and just go no social media.
It might be smart
just to be safe.
I mean, is he taking a break at all from social media, or is he just still chugging right along? Like, what's going on?
I haven't really seen anything, and I'm a Velveteen Dream mark. I've liked him ever since they really started using him, and even I when I see him, I'm just like, ay.
I don't know. I feel weird about it because I fucking love him and I want to believe that he's telling the truth just because I like him, Yeah,
but basically, as far as I know, all I've seen of his, I don't follow it as closely as Atomic Moon does, but his social media, as far as that, all I saw was right after that, he said basically what we just talked about. He said, I didn't do this. Somebody else did. I told the police that. I gave them all of this stuff to look into it. They are looking into it. And as far as I know, that's all he said about that, at least. Like, he may have said other stuff, but I'm sure it was in character.
Chris, how do you feel about, speaking of NXT, how do you feel about them bringing back In Your House?
I think it's a cool idea to bring that back,
It makes sense. It makes sense with the quarantine.
The name immediately caught my attention, and I was kind of, like, oh, that's cool,
Ryan, are you old enough to remember In Your House?
Oh,
dude, yeah. I went back and watched like almost all of them whenever I got WWE Network, so I'm pretty familiar with the In Your House.
Yeah, first Hell in a Cell match, first 5-star WWE match.
Some legit, some of the best matches ever are on In Your House pay-per-views because that's where they tried stuff out. Was on those cards.
Yeah, and they needed to do something bigger and like gimmicky, like a Hell in a Cell or whatever, to sell it. You know what I mean? To get it over, because they didn't. You know what I mean? There weren't backlashes and stuff yet. There was still just the big pay-per-views. It was just Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
One of my favorite.
Oh, go ahead, Ron. I'm sorry.
One of my favorite matches is it was on In Your House. Speaking of pulling up in a truck, it was Stone Cold versus The Rock with the Nation of Domination, and Stone Cold comes up in a truck and then like it basically has to fight like all of them at the same time, and The Rock puts on Stone Cold's vest. Like that's like one of my favorite matches.
Why is Backlash repping the Edge versus Randy Orton match as possibly the greatest wrestling match ever?
Possibly? No, there is no possibly. It is.
I don't think it's like the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. Like on that page. I don't think it's like that. I think it's more of a stipulation of the match. It's like it's going like it's going to be conducted as the greatest wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like a cage match or something. It's almost like a stipulation that Edge is trying to add to it. A lot of what Edge is doing right now is like art film stuff of wrestling. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to do that stuff. I think it's just falling flat because we're in this like
it's a weird time.
Yeah, we're in this like weird super cinematic era of wrestling, and he's trying to do like visceral live stuff, that is still like risky. It's still like may or may not go over. Like I said, it's like art film stuff compared to just like going out and making a movie.
I think regardless,
Fast 18
takeover in your house or whatever it's all the takeovers have been great. I mean, there's been some that had some iffy moments, but I think all the takeovers are great. I'm less certain that Backlash is going to be that good. I think Edge and Randy Orton will have a fine match. It'll be fine.
Yeah, Backlash is not going to be great. What else is billed for that yet?
I don't know that anything is filmed for. I think it's going to be shot live or something like that.
No, they'll have some pre-taped segments.
Oh yeah, well, like Raw for next week has already been taped, as far as I know. Like Raw for next week was taped a few days ago.
So are they just winging that shit? Some of them are going to be live, some of it's taped, or is it going to be
until they get? I mean, all of them are at the same facility, and so like until they get crowds, there's not really any reason to make everybody come up there every time. You know what I mean? So people can have vacations, and plus you got to fly in people, like flying in MVP for stuff. Like they flew him in.
Yeah, we got to get. I mean, there's nothing more important than making sure the MVP is there on time. You know what I mean? And I like how he came out in his. I'm sorry, this is a little bit older now, but he came out in that Black Panther inspired wrestling costume to not do a goddamn thing. You know what I mean? What the fuck?
You got beat by Brock Lesnar. How's he gonna not? You know what I mean? Like even Black Panther would get beat by.
Speaking of guys that I don't give a shit about, Bobby Lashley feuding with old Dusty McHaggis, fucking Drew McIntyre. God damn it! I don't give a shit about Bobby Lashley either, man. Come on.
I feel like Bobby Lashley could be used a lot better. It's kind of
it could.
This has been a bad year for him having to work with Lana.
That shit's fine. It's just they ruined Bobby Lashley a long ass time ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a possibility for him to ever truly recover from the massacre, but yeah.
Bobby Lashley has a better MMA record than Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
It's like he could, he is like a prototype for somebody that Vince would push as being a main like title contender, but he's just been around for so long without really being in that spot that it's like.
I just think it's like basically what I just said. The only outside of wrestling draw that is working right now, and I could be wrong in the next few days. Tyson could just blow up AEW, but the only is Brock Lesnar, and so Brock Lesnar gets first choice and first of everything. And there's only so many guys Brock will work with. He's just that kind of guy. He's not going to work with guys. He's not going to go out there and put over Drake Maverick. You know what I'm saying? Period. If it's not if it's my first night, I don't give a shit. I'm not doing it. I won't do it. And so there's only so many guys, and Lashley's one of the guys that he'll work with because, like I just said, he's got a better MMA record than Brock Lesnar at heavyweight. And so, like, I think he thinks that he sees it. And McIntyre the same way. Like, they're guys that Lesnar will work with. So Vince McMahon is like, okay, well, I'll make these guys, and at least then I'll have them to put over with Lesnar. Because Lesnar would work with Roman and stuff, and Roman's a big guy, but it wasn't. I don't know. I didn't feel like their stuff was like earth changing, like it was when.
Chris, you said something a few podcasts ago. I think about how you sort of felt sorry for Drew McIntyre because he's getting the push right now and during the pandemic. I'd have to agree with you. I think they're having to put him in some pretty fucking weird angles because of what's going on.
Yeah, the whole Selena Vega squad feud.
Yeah, like what the fuck was that? Like I like it, and I like Selena Vega, and I like Andrade, and I like just that whole crew. I think they're all great and everything, but I mean, I just don't understand that. angle.
It's also funny because with Drew McIntyre, they're trying to change his gimmick from being the Scottish psychopath to being like more of almost a Stone Cold Steve Austin like badass type. And it sucks because there's not like a crowd to feed off of any of that. Like when he like has his sassy quips now.
Well,
I just like him as like a super nice, apologetic, like, thank you. I'm just so grateful to be here and have a belt. Like, I mean, come on.
I think that the same thing, almost in the opposite, could be said though for AEW. Like, a lot of stuff that they think is getting over on AEW, I think may not really be getting over because...
Like what? For example?
He's talking about Brody Lee, probably.
Yeah, Brody Lee. We could go into a bunch of other stuff, like just the whole idea that like, everything after the neck tattoo for Cody, the women's division as a whole, like whatever they're clusterfucking with all that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it is a clusterfuck.
Yeah, absolutely. They just keep throwing together like 5-woman tags or 8-way matches and stuff, and it's obviously it's just like, oh yeah, well this stuff they're sitting there in the writing meeting, they're like, oh yeah, well this stuff doesn't draw, but we have to do it. So
and
just
who
throw
gives
this
a
together.
shit? Why is Statlander, that alien chick, what the fuck is going on with that shit?
She's probably she's in their top 5 girls though. That's the deal.
She's
is like,
not good. Her
she's
gimmick
not
is
bad.
terrible.
She's not bad.
She needs to ditch the alien gimmick and get with the horse girl gimmick because she looks exactly like a horse girl.
She is, yes, I agree with that 100%. You're right.
It's one of those things that they like say is a thing. Like Chris Statlander is from the Andromeda Galaxy, but like they don't address anything else about it. They don't fucking talk about it. She's never on the microphone to talk about it. It's just like they introduce her as being Chris Statlander from the Andromeda Galaxy.
And then she moves everybody's noses.
So are you guys telling me she's not from the
Look, I'm not saying I know for sure, but I had posited the question to my friend Katie while we were watching the pay-per-view if she knows anything about the reptilians that are infiltrating the government at the highest levels.
That'd be a solid question to ask. Yeah, you should try to get an interview. That's a good question.
I don't think I will. I don't think I'm going to try. I think I'm just going to let that be a question I posited to the ether. We'll find out later.
I'm not commenting on whether or not it's a work or a shoot. I'm just saying I would like some more information.
I think the government should release the files. Like, there's so much redacted in the files they have released.
She might be in that redacted portion, and you might be right.
She might know something about the UFO that the image of the UFO that the Pentagon released. Elon Musk could possibly contact her when he has questions about space travel. She might know something about it.
Didn't the guy from Blink-182, Tom DeLonge, I think, didn't he release those videos like way before the government did, and it was just basically kind of like some shit we'd already seen?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's like
I was gonna say Blink-182 seems like they're way marketing-wise ahead of the government. Like I just remember Blink-182 blew up and then went away, and they all seem to have money and stuff, whereas the government just keeps dragging on.
No, Tom DeLonge is not even officially in Blink-182. That shit's over, bro. They've toured without him multiple times. This is his life. This is his life now. Tom DeLonge is a ufologist. And this is his life now.
Wow. I think they need to get Chris
I was
Statlander.
not expecting for any info on Blink-182. But wow. You know about that. Yeah, cool.
I think they need to get Chris Statlander, Tom DeLonge, and Randy Quaid in a room together and just find out what they know.
Dude, Randy Quaid.
He's in the know. Any dude who looks like they just crawled out of a fucking tent from the National Forest, like Randy Quaid, it looks like at all times. Like, he looks like a dude that gets interviewed just after a tornado has hit some rural area. You know what I mean? He looks so fucking bewildered.
I've seen video of Randy Quaid having sex with Rupert Murdoch. I've seen video proof. I've got. I was going to
say he took some heat, and I'm not saying unjustly, but he did take some heat for during a podcast, live stream, Twitch deal, something. Anyway, he basically had sex with his girlfriend while she was wearing a Rupert Murdoch mask, so that he could say
No,
he
it was
fucking
actually Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
It was not. Yeah, I don't know where you're
that
getting
was
that. I don't know
okay.
where you're getting that information from.
Oh, I read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a journalist, like somebody. But I've seen the video as well, and I feel like maybe he's. I'm not. I'm pretty sure that is what's going on, and that would not be appropriate. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was a consensual just video of him and Rupert Murdoch having sex, that'd be one thing. But I'm not sure that wearing the mask is appropriate on a lot of levels.
I don't know what Randy Quaid knows, but he knows something.
He's turned into his character from Independence Day.
Exactly.
No, he really has. It's one of the great ironies of life is that Randy Quaid has. I mean, it only took like 30 fucking years, but he did it, man. He slowly morphed into his character from probably the biggest movie he's ever been in. I mean, because other than National Lampoon's, what the fuck has Randy Quaid ever done?
Okay, so hot thing I wanted to also ask you about Atomic Moon. There's the Audi Formula E team fired Daniel Abt this week because he was in a sim Formula E race that was on TV, and he basically had a professional sim racer come over to his house and play the deal for him. And when you saw the video of him during the race, the microphone was like positioned perfectly where his face would be, so you couldn't see that it was the other guy. And then after the deal, when they were doing the interviews, his video was unreachable because of some technical issue. And then later he said, "Oh yeah, I did this." He claims he was doing it to like videotape it and then show it to everybody, and it be like a thing, just a funny thing to be on social media or whatever. But his actual Formula E team fired him this week, like 2 days after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was fined like $10,000.
He got fined like 100. Oh no, it was like 10 grand or so. It was like a pretty hefty fine for a fucking E-race.
Yeah, and then he was fired by his actual Formula E team. So that's 2 race car drivers, counting Kyle Larson in NASCAR, who have lost their jobs from sim racing during the pandemic.
That's incredible.
Jesus
so I don't know if that's good or bad for sim racing. It may actually be good because
I think it's good.
It creates danger.
Yeah, and
there's no danger in sim racing. You can't die, So now
you could lose a lot of money and get fired.
Exactly, drop an N-bomb like Kyle Larson did.
Be careful.
Or McDonald's and dude, he was one of the biggest race car. He was probably the second biggest fan wise driver.
Yeah, I'd say
NASCAR.
It's like him right behind Chase Elliott.
So what do we get? What are you guys gonna eat for lunch? You guys getting some Gargano's pizza? Or are you gonna go with Papa Shack's, or what are you doing?
I'm thinking Papa Shack's, maybe, possibly.
Papa Shack's.
Yeah.
I like Papa John's now that Shaq's done it. I feel like Shaq could eat 30 pizzas in 30 days. He may not, but he could.
Easily.
I have actually worked at a Papa John's, and let me tell you, that is the worst pizza chain in America by far.
But you're talking about Joe Shatner Papa John's. Now that it's under Shaq, you don't know. They got racial justice and all kinds of stuff in there.
It's Papa John Shatner. Either way. Yeah, he's a greasy, sweaty guy. He's got a lot of mental problems. Did y'all hear about him going to local bars and just giving out coupons to Papa John's after he got deposed or whatever? He would just go to the bar, not drink anything, and just sit there and strike up random conversations with people and be like, "Hey, do you want a Papa John's coupon? There you go." And then disappear into the mists of the night or something. I don't know what the fuck he was doing.
I wish there was a buddy reality show where it was John from Papa John's and Richie Incognito, and just a camera crew just followed those two guys around for 6 months.
And Jared Kushner. Just for color.
Just color.
No, or Ted Danson or something I know that he the Papa John's guy. I know that if you haven't seen this, you can look up on the internet. There's a bunch of videos, clips that people have recorded from social media and pictures of him super trashed at University of Louisville games.
Yeah.
Both basketball and football because I don't know if he went there, if he lives in Louisville, Kentucky.
He does. Yeah, that's where his house is at. His fucking crazy mansion is in Louisville.
He goes to like a lot of University of Louisville games. So they're the Cardinals, and you can find just untold like a Brockmeyer amount of pictures like of him just at Kentucky, at University of Kentucky stuff with like a bunch of like 20-year-old students, you know, who are also like not wearing clothes, and they're all just like and taking pictures with him like he's fucking Richie Sambora or fucking Vince Neil or something.
I mean, it is Kentucky.
He's the Vince Neil. He's the Vince Neil of pizza for sure.
It's Kentucky, and his former transgressions of a racial nature, I don't think anybody in Kentucky is too concerned about, you know?
Kentucky state we always went around when we were on tour. Like, that was one of those states you don't go through there. The only time you went through there
you don't go through Idaho, and you don't go through Kentucky on tour.
And the only time you go through, you have to go through Kentucky for just one short run. But it's that Nashville, Indianapolis, Dayton weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to go there, like the way that you need to go to get there the next day. You have to go like a little bit through Kentucky. It's only a couple hours. Just don't stop. Just keep going, you know, and you're done.
Yeah, I just the creepiest thing about working at Papa John's is like they had a training video, and basically they were like they were trying to guilt trip everybody, like telling the story of Papa John and how he sold his first car to buy a pizza oven, and because he made that sacrifice, now you have a job. And I was like, I was actually kind of working that job against my will. Like I was working at a Golden Chick that the same people owned, and they were like, hey, we want you to come manage this Papa John's. And then, yeah, it was a disaster.
Does anybody work at a Papa John's or a Golden Chick for that matter without feeling like they have a metaphorical gun to their fucking head? Like, you will do this job. Like all those minimum wage food service jobs are basically hostage situations. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you're right about that, but it was worse at Papa John's. It was like
the training that I've heard is like the most cult-like is Chick-fil-A.
it is.
Like, you have to say this, you have to do this. And then all the customers are like, no, these people love their jobs. They're so happy to be here. It's like, no, motherfucker. If they don't do that, they will be fired immediately.
You have to say
without cause.
it's my pleasure, right? You have to say it's my pleasure.
Exactly, yeah. Like that, they put that in their guidelines, and so that becomes cause then. Because you know what I mean? Like, normally, we're in Texas, but in real states that have, like, real law, you know, protections for workers, like, you can't fire somebody without cause. So you know what I mean? Like, if they're just refusing to say something that you want them to say or whatever, like, you can't fire them necessarily for that with cause. Like, you can fire them without cause, but you can't, you know what I'm saying? But in those situations, that's all the Chick-fil-A places are states like this, and so it's just, you know, like, that's in their guidelines. If you don't say that, we will immediately fire you.
Actually,
Like,
don't know.
Especially if you do it on purpose.
I don't know where the Chick-fil-A is all found, like how many states it's in. I know it's definitely big shit around here.
I think it started in Georgia, I want to say.
That makes a lot of sense considering their proclivities to putting money into certain situations.
I think it started in the heart of the South. I don't think it's like necessarily in a physical location. I think it's a metaphysical location called the heart of the South.
Dixieland.
Like that episode of South Park where they find the heart of Walmart, and it's like a mirror, and then they break it.
Oh, yeah. All of life is like an episode of either the South Park or The Simpsons at this point. So
for real.
So I feel like we talked as much about Tyson as the general media is going to about his deal on AEW the other night. Because did it not seem like it was just? I mean, it just there. Like, there's two ways to go with this if you want to rip on it for being a copy. Okay, you could go the obvious, like, oh man, that was almost exactly the same thing that Stone Cold and him did.
Yeah,
back in '97. Or you could go 10 years ago when DX got back together and Jericho was wearing the tiny tights and the kick pads.
Yeah, and they made reference.
They also did this, and Tyson came out with them and did a deal and knocked out Jericho. So you could go either way with this. Like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, essentially, like,
they're gonna compare it more to the Tyson showing up at the DX reunion
Because
and
it's
knocking
exactly
out
the same thing, yes.
Because it's exactly the same thing as that, and even Jericho brings it up, so they want to tie it to that rather than tie it to the much, much better executed thing between him and Stone Cold back in the 90s.
We still haven't talked about how it's essentially like, although there were all those MMA stars there with him, and then just I don't know which one it was, whether it was the guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers or Will Ferrell. I get them mixed up. But which one of them was wearing that eye makeup?
I don't know what the fuck that was. What my vision was centered on. Not even Tyson. The only thing I could look at was that dude, just standing there with that weird ass fucking eye makeup for no apparent reason at all. I don't have any idea what that was for or about.
It's AEW. One of their announcers wears a mask. Okay, nothing needs to be explained. They've made it very evident that they are not taking any time to explain anything. I
mean, that's fair.
Yeah,
I
don't know how to argue with that.
You're supposed to be smart, Marks. You're supposed to figure it out yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That's going to be a problem for me. Smart Mark? No. Yeah, I don't know.
Things spoon-fed to me at, I believe we decided on a 5th grade level earlier. Like, that's why, again. So, okay, wait, to go back about that. If Rey Mysterio didn't fall off Titan Tower, did Aleister Black?
They both
Surely he did.
They caught each other. Right? They caught each other. They did some sort of weird aerial 69, and they combined their powers, and then they landed it somehow.
Webbed feet.
That's what it is.
Also, Rey Mysterio is supposed to have a retirement ceremony on Monday.
Well, that's got to be real, because when somebody retires in wrestling,
you mean next month?
Definitely.
Something like that.
No, say what? No, yeah, this Monday on Raw. It's going to be the Rey Mysterio retirement ceremony. If you don't know what that means, it's going to be a deal where Seth Rollins comes out and clowns him to get heat during a fake retirement. It's going to be about as real of a retirement ceremony as Mark Henry's, which actually turned out to be real. So we all didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So, no, retirement ceremonies in wrestling are just like
hiatus ceremonies.
Yeah.
And Mark Henry one was just happened to be the exception to the rule by accident.
How many times did Mick Foley or Ric Flair retire? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, God, yeah.
So, yeah, Seth Rollins is not scheduled for Backlash yet, so that's kind of looking like a Backlash match.
Buddy Murphy still... That's a lot of shirts!
Who?
Buddy Murphy. Isn't that Buddy Murphy?
Who?
Oh, no, wait. That's the guy in the Inner Circle.
I don't know a Buddy Murphy.
Buddy Murphy?
Are you talking about...
And then he was with Seth Rollins.
Yeah, he's the Australian ginger.
Oh, you mean Murphy?
Murphy, yes.
Oh, right. Yeah, we changed his name. Yeah, good looking out. Good job there.
Y'all got to stay in kayfabe.
It's Murphy. I forgot, yeah.
All right, guys. We're at over an hour and a half. We're final thoughts for our probably 6 people that are going to listen to this. I'll let you have the floor, Jonah Hexx.
If you're asking for my final thoughts on the last week of wrestling in general, I would say, considering most of that centered in and around the pay-per-view, like I agreed with you, it's a 4-star pay-per-view with some decent matches, but a lot of discombobulation, and ultimately the Stampede match was entertaining, but not a great match. But as far as this week of just regular TV so far, say NXT, as always, love it. Love Matt Riddle, love Timothy Thatcher. Raw was and that's my thoughts on it. I got no thoughts on Formula One or e-racing, so y'all can go ahead and cover that topic, and that's me done.
Let me clarify. That's a 4-star pay-per-view for AEW, okay, which translates to 8 stars by Dave Meltzer's rankings on a 4-star scale. That's 8 stars.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, yeah.
I just want to thank Jonah Hexx for being with us, and hope you come back sometime and share your wrong opinions with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll come back and share my wrong opinions every week if you want. I got nothing going.
Yes, that's kind of the sign of the times nowadays. All right, guys. Thank you guys for being on, making time out of your busy lifestyle to talk about fake fighting. Yeah.
Loved it.
Yep. All right, guys. Signing off for now. Thank everybody for watching. Peace out.